I'm here today with Shel Douglas, who is the new Director of Social Services. And she has over 30 years of experience in social work, and including the Director of Social Services for Dinwiddie County and Prince George County. I can't go down the long list. She has a very, very long list of organizations, councils, teams, boards that she's served in throughout her whole career. I can just tell from a brief conversation I've already had and looking at her bio that we're very fortunate to have her here in Fauquier County with us, and I'm excited to introduce her to you today. So, Shel, let's start with a story. If you could maybe share a story about when you realized that you were called to be of service to others.
Well, that goes way back to the 80s, I think, when even in high school, you know, there's always that person that your friends tend to turn to and talk about what's going on in their lives and brainstorming what their options are and solutions, or a shoulder to cry on. And looking back, I think that was the role that I tended to play a lot with my friends in high school. So that those conversations around the lunchroom table sort of started me thinking about, what do I really want to do in life? And I really went to college to be a physics major, and I needed an elective, and my professor said, well, take a social work class because you'll really enjoy that. And I really did. I found that was so much, it tapped something in me really different than physics did. And just being available to communicate with people and play with the children in that class that we had, that really turned the tide for me. And I switched my major from physics to social work immediately.
Boy, and how interesting that a counselor would have seen that and suggested it to you. It just shows you about opportunities, doesn't it? And being open to new ideas. Oh, that's really great. What does being of service mean to you?
I think that we're all blessed with different skills and opportunities. And with that comes a responsibility to do something with those things. Some people are great musicians, some people are artists, some people have very analytical minds. And I just feel like I was given the skills to help identify what needs there are and find resources to meet those needs. So that's really what it means to me to be using the service skills that I have, is that I have a responsibility to help folks identify what their needs are and connect them to the resources that I'm aware of.
Yeah. But you lead me right into my next question, is if you could just sort of briefly describe the community or the people that you serve in your role as Director of Social Services.
Well, as a director, I really feel like we have two groups of folks that I'm responsible for serving. We, of course, have the citizens of the community to make sure we provide the services that are available. We are the safety net for some of our most vulnerable citizens. But I also see in my position as director that I have a staff of about 60 of the hardest working individuals in this county. And so I also serve them and advocate for them to make sure they have the skills and the tools and the technology they need to take care of that first population that is so critical.
Yes. And in that population, could you explain why it's important that we serve those people, the people that you use that are in such need here in our community?
Well, you know, life gets complicated at times, and I think 2020 has certainly been a prime example of that. And there are times when life just happens for every one of us, and you can be overwhelmed and not know where to turn, not know what the resources are. So that's why I think I say we serve the most vulnerable individuals and families in our community, because they're facing those life issues and really don't know what resources they have available or what options. And we all know when we get to the end of our rope, it's easy to get frustrated. It's easy to be overwhelmed. And I think that's really where social services comes in to be the change agent to help connect people with what is available to help them tie that knot at the end of the rope and just hang on and start moving forward.
Yes, yes. And when you say vulnerable, maybe if you could really just very quickly explain who are these people? I think sometimes people have a misunderstanding about what social services does. And I think you serve a vast population that people may not be aware of.
Right. So social services in Virginia really has a couple of different avenues. Of course, we provide all the public welfare assistance that we can draw down from the federal or state resources, such as our SNAP program, which used to be called food stamps, our temporary assistance to needy family programs. We determine the eligibility for Medicaid so that folks have health insurance to get the medical services they need. So those all fall under our benefit programs. We have employment assistance work that we do with folks and try and get them either back into an educational program so they can be looking for a better position, or finding job skills that can help them get or keep a job. So that all falls under the benefit side. Under our services side, we have child protective services and prevention services to try and keep our little ones safe, and that's from birth to 18. We have foster care services for those children who, for whatever reason, can't stay with their biological parents. We try and find safe and stable family settings for them. Then we have adoption services when those foster care situations become more permanent. And that sort of covers our child welfare continuum, but we also serve our adults and our adults with disabilities so that they also have the same level of safeguards and protections. We have 24/7 child protective services and adult protective services. So it is our very young, our more senior citizens, and then all those who fall in the middle who are really struggling.
Yes, yes. And has this year sort of shown a different side of the people that you're serving? I know there's more need, but do you see something different about what's happening right now?
Well, I can't tell you why, but our adult protective service numbers have just gone through the roof. We're seeing about a 300% increase in reports of abuse or neglect for our senior population. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with the isolation, with the demands of not, a lot of that is self-neglect on our seniors' part. So it's that isolation that COVID has forced us to be in has really impacted our senior population extremely hard this year. And so our adult protective team has really been very, very busy. That's probably the largest increase in demand that we've seen in all of the programs. Our Medicaid numbers, folks who need that assistance for medical care, those numbers are also up higher than Fauquier has ever seen them.
But that creates quite a challenge. And you have the same staff that you had before, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And trying to figure out how we do it from a telework perspective and things like that to make sure that citizens are getting what they need while our doors have not been open as much as they were before.
Mm-hmm. So I have fun with this question that you, with sitting there in your role as Director of Social Services, and you had the genie show up and grant you one wish, other than money. Yeah. What would that be for you as a director, or for the people that you serve? What would be that wish that you would ask for?
I think I would wish for a way to provide more affordable housing for a lot of the citizens that we encounter. There's just not enough of that resource to go around to meet the demand right now. And having moved into the community myself, trying to look for affordable rental space, I saw that challenge head on for my own life. But then I hear that story over and over and over again with a lot of the families that we work with. It's very challenging to find the affordable housing that is needed for this community.
Yes. And explain why affordable housing is important.
Well, think about yourself, at the end of the day when you're exhausted, we all kind of like to go home and sit down in our comfy chair and just relax because that's where we feel safe. But if you don't have that safe place that is where you can always retreat to, then the rest of your day just sort of goes downhill from there. So we have a lot of folks who have been living in their cars, or we have folks who are temporarily trying to make it in hotel stays because there is no permanent place for them to lay their head at night. And just think about if that's how your day starts with, where am I going to be this evening, or where am I going to be at the end of this month when I can't stay here anymore, then that becomes such an overwhelming focus of your life that you really can't attend to the other things. And then if you add on to the fact that you may be dealing with depression or substance abuse issues or other domestic family issues, not having that security of at least knowing, I know where I am going to be this evening, I know where I'm going to be tomorrow evening, that just compounds everything dramatically.
Yes. That's interesting. That's always been a topic here. There's a lot of talk about affordable housing. It's hard to define. And I think it's a very misunderstood concept as well, from what I've been seeing. And what do you call affordable, and what is homeless? The definition of homelessness, those types of issues aren't talked about enough, I don't think. It's sort of just, it's put out there and then nothing happens about it. So.
And it's a challenging topic to take on, because then you get into, you build homes to realtors to sell and construction companies to make a profit over. And then you have to balance out, okay, how do you keep those folks in business, but still be able to provide resources for folks who make a decent wage, but not six figures or more.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some sort of balance between the builders making a profit and the folks who need to live in those places affordably.
Affordable, yes.
You still, after you pay your rent, you need to be able to afford to eat and to afford to clothe your children and those kinds of things. So that's what affordable housing is.
Yes, absolutely. So when you think about leadership, what is a key leadership attribute that you highly value?
I highly value communication and integrity. I think people make the best decisions they can when they know the information that surrounds those decisions. So being able to communicate and keep people in the know is a really important skill that I try and maintain with my staff. We, like I said, some of my staff are permanently teleworking, others float in and out of the office. So when you have 60 people going in 60 different directions, I think as a leader, it's very important to keep them informed about what is happening, what's coming down the pike, what's important for them to know, so that they have what they need to make the decisions about their own practice, their own lives, those kinds of things. So even when you have to communicate something that's challenging or something that is not going to be received extremely well, I think it's important for leaders to communicate all that they can so folks can make those informed decisions.
And what have you done with the change of the teleworking to facilitate that for your own people?
Well, I try and keep them in the loop with a weekly update from me. So sometimes it's lengthy, sometimes it's a little briefer. But I try and, when they were all together in an office, they had the water cooler kinds of conversations. They knew who was having the baby, whose child just graduated, all those happy life events. So I try and pass those on and keep people connected that way. We look for different ways to bring our teams together to have fun virtually now, since we all can't be together on one-on-one. So just trying to make that connection. And it's been super challenging for me because I just started with the agency in August, so right in the middle of COVID. trying to get to know everybody on my own team, let alone the community resources, has been a lot of fun. So we've done some creative things with that.
So how is that going for you?
Well, I think I have finally met all 60 of my staff. But it's interesting. I'm getting the opportunity to meet more and more leaders in the community, more and more of those resources. So, and I think the benefit is that I'm a fresh face coming in, asking the questions about what do we do with this? Where do we find this? So it's been really nice for our team to reevaluate what resources we do have so that they can introduce those to me.
To you. Excellent. Yeah. So I'm sure you've run into some obstacles along the way over the last few months. And what do you do for yourself as a leader to stay the course when you kind of get up against a wall or frustrated with the way things are going?
Well, I think having some quiet time alone. I telework about once a week now, and those are the times that I can really catch up on the things that I really can't do when people are needing me. So I can catch up on all my email backlog. I can catch up on the correspondence I need to take care of. And that's not taking away from the one-to-one time for folks who may come into my office and say, do you have a minute? Because that's very important to me. When someone's talking with me and they need my time in the office, I want to give them that. So I've started taking that one day to telework so I can do all those other paperwork and communication and emails and things like that, because we can really get some emails in a day. So,
yes, I bet you can. So I like to kind of conclude our conversation with, just through your experience as a director of social services in other communities, and now newly in this one, in the middle of a quite a crisis that you are affected by tremendously. What little words of wisdom would you give to the people that watch this and listen to you today?
Well, I think what I'd like to communicate is how amazed I am by the resources that are available in Fauquier. Coming in and having to look at it from an outsider joining the team, it's just amazing how far along the continuum Fauquier is in terms of addressing the needs of folks who struggle with mental health issues or substance abuse issues, or are trying to work their way out of poverty. So I think we are and I say we now because I'm glad to be part of this team, but I think we're further down the path than a lot of the other communities that I've worked with or been exposed to in the past. And that's just exciting to me to see how everybody is pulling together, willing to help, willing to step in. If someone identifies, hey, we need 600 turkeys by Tuesday, they get those 600 turkeys by Tuesday. And it's just amazing to see how all that comes together.
I love hearing that. We hear that a lot, here, and it's nice when people come and are new like you, and they see that, and it's good to hear that our vulnerable are being served here. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to be with me today, and we'll be having our panel discussion in a couple of weeks, and that should be fun and exciting. And I will share the videos with all the panelists ahead of time.